Kate and Caitlin. Hi.
The OG couch surfer.
Haven't heard that name in a while. Hey, buddy.
Who's a good boy?
Today we have Cato and Commander Borza on Conversations for the Animals with Tina and Tama. And Cato was surrendered to Officer Borza. Do you want to tell his story?
Yeah, I was at the Houston Harris County shelter, and I was talking to a guy on the parking lot that was surrendering Cato because he was moving out of state and couldn't take Cato with him. So I immediately contacted Pet Set Ladies, and we've got him at the Houston Dog Ranch right now, and hopefully he'll have his forever home soon. He's a good boy.
He's a good boy. Does he sit? Can he sit?
Can he sit?
Sit.
Can he sit?
Get sit. Sit.
He only does it for treats.
Oh, there he goes.
Oh,
And he shakes.
Good
boy.
That's a good boy.
So we're looking for a great home for Cato.
All right.
Good morning from Conversations for the Animals. We have two special guests here today. I'm Tama Lundquist with Houston Pet Set, co-president of Houston Pet Set, with
Tina Lundquist-Faust, co-president of Houston Pet Set.
and welcome Commander Borza from HPD. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
Yeah. What prompted this visit?
Well, I am over one of my duties at Houston Police Department over Major Offenders Division is I have an animal cruelty task force, and we deal with animals every day. I have one sergeant and 6 officers, and we're all over the city picking up animals that are either abused, neglected, or they just run in the streets, dog fighting. We deal with horses, cattle, sheep, pretty much everything.
Wow.
And it's just a job that's near and dear to my heart because I want to save as many animals as I can out there.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
And there are a lot out there, aren't there?
There's a lot. Unfortunately, we deal with about 50 to 80 animal cruelty cases every month in the city of Houston.
Wow.
That's just coming to us.
Right.
There's probably more, unfortunately, but that's what my crew deals with on a monthly basis.
And that's really a lot when you think about if you seize those animals, what are the outcomes for those animals? So that is a lot of animals to care for, find placement for, vet, get socialized, recover, whatever
It's a lot
needs
of
to be
work.
done. It is
Definitely,
a lot of work. Yeah.
definitely a lot of work. We work with many animal rescue groups, Pet Set, obviously, SPCA, BARK, Houston Humane, Harris County Shelter, and we've got a very good relationship with them.
Mhm.
So as many animals as we can, we try to save. Unfortunately, some of the animals that we come across are too far gone and they had to be euthanized, but it's pretty far and few between.
Mhm.
Most of our animals go on to find a wonderful forever home, and that's our goal.
Yeah.
We try to find these dogs homes that they'll be happy the rest of their life.
The worst thing that we see is, dogs who have been neglected, abused, tortured, maybe for most of their lives, and then to wind up in a shelter only to be euthanized and not have known love like we promised them when we domesticated them.
Yes.
So to hear you say that you find good outcomes or try to find good outcomes for these dogs is so important to us too.
Yeah, I'd say 95% of the dogs that we rescue find good homes.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty good stat.
Okay, so let's back up. We're getting deep into this. About 3 weeks ago, you contacted me, and we keep in touch. We have cases sometimes that we need your help with, and sometimes you have cases that you need our help with. And you said, "Help, Houston Pet Set, can you help?"
Yes.
Because I don't know if our fans out there can see it, but we have an Akita roaming around here, and his name is Cato. And you were out at Harris County on another situation, but you ran into some people. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I was going out to, once a month, we have a meeting out at Harris County for the Harris County Animal Cruelty Task Force that I'm a part of. And I saw a gentleman in the parking lot, and he had Cato with him, and he was letting Cato out of the back. And something just told me that he was going to surrender the dog. So I approached him, and we chatted, and he explained to me that he was moving from Houston to Las Vegas, I believe, and he couldn't take Cato with him. And I didn't understand it, but I knew that he had reached his, the end, and he took Cato inside and got him put into the shelter. And I had my meeting, and immediately after that meeting, I contacted you.
Mm-hmm.
And Cato was in the Harris County shelter for a week, and then you and I spoke some more, and we got him to the Houston Dog Ranch now. He looks great. He seems like a wonderful dog.
He does.
So I have high hopes that he'll get a good forever home soon, and he'll be a happy dog.
We know he must be friendly and fun because Jill's on the floor laughing, and I think he's eating something. So
Yeah, he's a big boy too.
he's a good boy. He sits
Yeah.
and he shakes and he does all of the above. He's a good boy. Yeah. You just going back when you saw the dog, and you told me, I think you texted, you said he looks so confused.
Yeah.
Here's a dog who's been in a home. He, by the looks of him, he probably had been living outside, but at least maybe no abuse, maybe not a lot of neglect. But the emotional toll you saw on this dog's face as he was being dropped off by the family, probably the only family he'd ever lived
Sure.
with. We look at the outsides of them and, do they need vetting? Do they need rehab? But sometimes you don't understand what happens to their hearts when they're surrendered. But you saw something that day. You said, I think he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah. I went and saw him a couple of days later, and he was very aggressive. And I was just thought to myself, if I was in my home, normal situation, and overnight I'm taken and put into a little shelter with a bunch of other dogs that are loud, he was probably just out of his element.
Mm-hmm.
And he very confused, very scared. And luckily for us, he's healthy, and he was spayed and neutered at the shelter. And from seeing him today, he's cleaned up, he's groomed, he looks fantastic. So we definitely made the right call, and I think he's going to do fine. He's a beautiful dog.
He is a beautiful dog. He's gorgeous. I was going back to what you do and the calls that come into you. How do you get most of your cases? Are they calls from the public, or is it because what your officers witness on the streets, or how do you get most of the cruelty cases that you investigate?
Most of our cases come from our patrol officers, and they run calls for service all day long, all over the city of Houston. We have 22 different districts in the city of Houston,
Wow.
and they will come across animal cruelty calls. And if it's an exigent circumstance or the dog's in close to a death situation, they'll call my animal cruelty unit, Major Offenders Division, and we'll go out there and seize either we'll have the person surrender the dog, or if they won't, we'll just seize the dog. We have Precinct 1 judges, Precinct 6 judges that we speak to on a regular basis. They'll give us a seizure warrant, and that gives us the right to remove that dog from that bad situation. Other than that, the patrol officers write their reports, and the very next day that report, all the animal abuse or cruelty cases in the city of Houston that HPD completes a report on. Oh boy.
Just say no, Jill.
Cato's having fun. They come to Major Offenders Division. My animal cruelty officers read them,
Right.
and then we respond to them. And we're also a part of PAWS. I joined PAWS about a year ago when I became the new commander over Major Offenders Division. The animal cruelty unit wasn't on PAWS, and I spoke to Assistant Chief Brian Harris at Precinct 5, and it just sounded like it was a good fit.
Yes.
So we get a lot of calls from PAWS that we react to too. So those two, just officers on the street
Sure.
who do a fantastic job every day. And I don't think they realize when you see animals abused and beaten and just tortured, it takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
And these officers see it day after day,
Right.
but they still come to work every day. They write the
Right.
reports, they send it to us. And unfortunately, me and my group, we have to watch the videos.
Right.
But we do it.
Yeah.
And we get through it, and we save the dog. The first thing we do, we go straight to the source, we seize the animal, and then we call the district attorney's office, and we file charges on that person if possible.
Yeah, and there is compassion fatigue. I mean, we see it in our shelter staff. We see it in rescue groups. They truly, it takes a toll, as you said, on their
It
hearts,
does.
on their psyche, on their souls. And it's something that needs to be addressed in our city because of the amount of cruelty, the amount of neglect that people in animal welfare see. We get it on our phones every day.
Yeah.
We get multiple calls every day. Can you help this? Dogs dragging their hindquarters across the street, and
It's tough to watch.
it is. It's hard to sleep at night sometimes.
But if you don't
because-
watch it, then you can't help.
Yeah.
So you've got to do it,
Exactly.
and you've got to respond to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. And it's the sacrifice I think everybody in animal welfare makes. It's the investment that they make in the work that we do. So
Yes, I agree.
kudos to your Bravo. Kudos
Thank you.
to
Thank you.
all of
I have a
your-
wonderful crew. I have 14 units in the Major Offenders Division. So I get to spend maybe 30 or 45 minutes on the animal cruelty division.
Right.
Then I have to move to my other unit because
Sure.
I've got so many things going on. I have 85 officers, sergeants, and lieutenants that I interact with on a regular basis. So I don't get to do as much as I'd like to in animal abuse field, but my officers, they're fantastic and they deal with it every day and they do a great job.
Wonderful. When you see animal cruelty in the field, and you can go into those homes or go into those yards and save those animals, or at least educate the owners, how often do you find other things in those homes that maybe are against the law? Those owners doing things against the law.
It all depends on what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with gang members who
Mhm.
have the big pit bulls for dog fighting, you'll find weapons, you'll find drugs. A lot of times we have hoarder situations where they started out just trying to help the animals that they found on the streets. But 30, 40, 50 animals later in a
Yeah.
very small house or an apartment, it's become a problem.
Right.
And we have to step in and educate and remove those animals because
Mhm.
when you have that many animals in a small place, the diseases are going to be rampant. So, but there's a lot of things you can do just educating the
Mhm.
folks. But there's some circumstances where we went into a home probably a month ago. The guy was caught on video beating his 2 puppies. And we went into the home and got the 2 puppies that night after we saw the video. And he had dead birds in the house, a dead cat in the house. There were some very strange things going on in that home. And we were able to file 3 felony charges on him, took him to jail, and got all the live animals out of that environment.
Yeah.
For
Can't
those
imagine
cases,
what you see.
I hope they're rare. We don't run
Yeah.
into those very often, but we do.
Mhm.
But most cases, I want to just say it's education because I grew up with animals, but we treat them like family members.
Mhm.
But not all people are like that. A lot of animals, people are grown there for protection, protect your house or protect your business. You feed them, you give them shelter, give them water, and that's it. You really never become close to that animal. And if that's how you're raised, it's fine, but you still have to take care of the animal.
Right. Exactly. Food,
And that's,
water,
yes,
shelter. Yeah.
yes. Make sure the animal sees a vet on a
Yeah.
regular basis. And I understand that he watches your business. He's a guard dog, but you still, by law, have to take care of that animal. And if you don't, we're going to come visit you.
And speaking of law, it would be nice for you to have stronger laws to take dogs out of neglect situations.
Yeah, I
because-
agree. We do okay, but
Mhm.
we need more. We
Yeah.
need stronger laws.
We need some ordinances. Houston is one of the few, maybe the only major city in Texas that does not have an ordinance that describes shelter, that describes how you properly care for your
Yeah.
pets. So that would, from what we've heard from other officers and you on
Mhm.
occasion, it would help you to have that law to back you up to take dogs before it becomes a situation where they're almost dead.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between shelter in 100-degree heat
Yeah.
or shelter when we had our storm in February where it got below freezing for several days. We had a lot of calls about animals freezing
Yeah.
because they didn't have the proper shelter
Yeah.
because the owners thought the shelter they had for 100-degree weather would be okay for, what did it get down to, 18 degrees
18.
in Houston,
And
which
it
is
was
unheard of.
sustained, yeah.
And we had a lot of, unfortunately, bad situations
Mhm.
with the animals outside because it just wasn't appropriate.
Right.
So
I know that the Harris County Animal Cruelty Task Force got 5,000 calls.
yes, we did.
Yes, and so then the system crashed. Unfortunately, there were so many calls and emails coming in that
Yeah.
the system couldn't.
It was a
also-
rough 2 weeks
it
for
was
sure.
Terrible. It was
Um,
tough for people, but it was tough for the animals
It
too.
was. It
Yeah.
really was. And you hate seeing that. You hate seeing animals suffer. And the first thing you want to do, you want to react, get the animal out of that environment, get him to SPCA, get him to bark, get him somewhere safe
Mhm.
where he can see a vet or her and take care of him.
Right.
And then we'll deal with the charges later.
Quickly, I wanted to bring up another animal that you recently rescued. I think it was on the news, and it wasn't a dog or a small cat, but you were.
It was a
you were-
rather large tiger. Yes, ma'am. That was an interesting case for sure.
Yeah.
And luckily that all worked out. The tiger's in the sanctuary outside of Dallas now. I get regular videos of him playing and acting like a tiger now.
Right.
He's not living in a house
Yeah.
with a small enclosure, to use the restroom.
Right.
And I understand some people just want to do it for attention,
Mhm.
but there's absolutely no excuse for having a wild animal as a pet. It's unacceptable. It's not right. It's not cute. It's not funny.
Right.
it's against the law.
I
So-
think that's the point that needs to be made. It
Yeah.
is illegal.
It's against the law
Yes.
to have a wild animal. Now we need stricter laws on that too. There's a big cat law that I don't know if it went to Senate. I know it passed Congress, but I think COVID got in the way and it hasn't passed yet. But I think that law, if it does pass, will have a little more bite to it because we have more big animals in the city of Houston. We're aware of it. We just haven't found them yet,
Yeah.
but we will.
Right. Yeah. It's usually not your good next door neighbor that has these wild animals.
Yeah.
They're usually probably, as Tama referenced earlier, involved with other things that are illegal.
Yeah.
So
Very
yeah,
expensive to have a tiger or a bear, and usually the people that do that, they're not our upstanding citizens. Let's just put it that way.
Right,
We'll keep
right.
it mild.
I thought it was interesting. Then a couple weeks later, we were talking about another case, and you said, "Oops, gotta go." You had rescued a little kitty, and of all things, you rescued the big kitty. No incidents, you were fine. But
Yep.
that little kitty, it was like,
Yeah.
how could you get in
He
trouble
bit
with
the hell
he
out of
bit
me.
the- oh, we swore.
he got me good. And unfortunately, I could tell she was in distress, and I thought she was in so much distress that I would just be able to pick her up
Right.
and get her to the vet. Nah, she got me pretty good. I
Wow.
ended up in the hospital,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
We got her to my vet, and unfortunately, she had throat cancer,
Oh,
and she was dying, and we put her
I
out of
wonder if she
misery.
was so reactive.
It was her time to go.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but she went out with a bang,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Well, and thank God she had you to at her last days say goodbye and love her. Love her
Yeah, I
out of
couldn't
this
watch her
world.
suffer. And
Yeah.
we all know, you've been
Yes.
around animals enough. You can tell when an animal, it's like a child or a person, you can tell when they're suffering.
Right.
And some people walk away from that. I can't.
Yeah.
And my animal cruelty officers, they can't either. We do everything we can for them.
We say there are things worse than death, and one of them is suffering.
So I agree.
Suffering
100%.
is worse, especially to the extent that we see it for animals in this community.
I agree.
And you see it, we see it. Dogs that have been shot. My dog at home still has bullets. We had him X-rayed. He's got bullets and buckshot in his system that'll always be there.
Yep.
Intentionally hit by cars. It's just, yeah, it's hard to see day after day after day. And I think what we want people to understand is this happens more often than people think.
It does.
And people need to be aware of it. There need to be resources for animals coming out of this situation, for more officers, it needs to be funded to the level at which we see. So
I agree.
that's why it's really important to have
Yeah.
you here today
Totally
and to
agree.
talk about it.
Because when you get the animals, if you were to bring them to Bark or Harris County, which would be the natural course for you to do, the outcome isn't guaranteed. So
It's not guaranteed, but we do have a MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding with SPCA and BARC, that if HPD brings that dog, cat, whatever it be, they will do everything they can to
Mhm.
save the dog, save the animal, and get it to a foster and then get it to a forever home. We've had I've been doing this now for 3 years, heavily involved in animal cruelty world, probably about 5 or 6 that we had to put down.
Mhm.
And when we were there on the scene, I could look at the dog and knew it wasn't going to be able to be saved.
Right.
There was just nothing we could do.
Right.
So it's very rare that they put them down,
Mhm.
and but unfortunately we have to. We have to be realistic
Yes.
in this world.
Right.
And some of them, it's time for them to go.
Right.
And I hate it,
Right.
but
No,
it's
it
part of
makes
life,
sense.
unfortunately.
Right,
We all have
absolutely.
an expiration date,
We do.
but we do everything we can to prevent that
Mhm.
for sure.
Well, the animals coming in from you, from other officers we work with, and from our rescue groups, they do need those outcomes. And Houston Pet said often, we're not a rescue, but we'll take them and put them in boarding and hope that they get to forever good homes at some point.
Yep.
But today it's one of the first podcasts that we've done this, but we're going to ask if people are interested in helping these abused and neglected animals that you see on the street, that you pull from the street. If Houston Pets that can help them, we can, but we'd really like funding to help us do that because we
it gets
have
expensive.
so many emergency cases that we take in, and it does get expensive. We have to vet them, we have to board them. If they're not the healthiest dogs coming in very
Yep.
often, because if they've been neglected, there's some health issues. So
Exactly.
it takes and sometimes we transport them, and it's not inexpensive to drive a dog to Minnesota either. So
No.
yeah, so
It's a lot of work, and I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of the public just doesn't understand
You're
all the
right.
work. Once you get the
Mhm.
dog, there's a lot more to it.
Right.
Once you get him somewhere safe, it's takes a while to get it to the end result, and what we're all looking for is a happy home.
Right. And when we look at it from a bird's eye view, it's not just a few cases. There are hundreds of thousands of strays on our streets.
Oh yeah,
And thousands going through rescues and shelters. So we're talking about a lot of animals that really need our care. And the only reason we're not getting to them is lack of resources right now.
sure.
So those resources will help us get to more animals.
What
Yeah.
Tama's politely trying to say is please donate
Yeah.
to Houston Pet Set today, and we'll make sure that those funds go to help the animals that you're taking out of these really abusive and neglect situations.
Well, like I said, I've been heavily involved in this about 3 years now, and every time I mention Pet Set, everybody in Houston knows you. Everybody speaks highly of both of you and the job that you do, and we really appreciate it
Oh, thank
because
you.
we need more. But you're doing a fantastic job. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're
We
making
have
a difference for sure.
We have a great team. They work so hard. We have wonderful supporters. We're blessed that we're able to do this. And then there are all the rescue groups too on the front lines doing so much work every single day. So
Yes.
we're part of a big system. And so we're just blessed to be here. But thank you for saying that. And thank
Thank
you
you.
for caring. Thank you, because it's your voice and your witness of what happens on those front lines that makes a difference. It's going to make a difference in legislation and ordinances and making big changes in the city so we don't have to see those animals suffer on a hourly, minutely, if you can say that, basis.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree with you. We need tougher laws, no doubt about
Yeah.
it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
you.
Thanks for taking the time and for all that you do. We're
Thank you
really
very
blessed
much.
to know you.
And
Yep.
I'm going to give you a quick phone number, Major Offenders Division,
Mhm.
Houston Police Department. If you see something, an animal cruelty situation or a dog needs help, it's 713-308-3100. Or you can get on the pause.org website and put it on pause. My officers go through that every morning.
Great.
So-
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yes, please report.
I will. Thank
Donate,
you very much,
donate
ladies.
and report. Okay.
Good
Thank
seeing
you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you very
Borza.
much.